July what? July 31st. Yeah, okay. Ow! Ow!
This is the Trans Labrador Highway, the Big Land. Once referred to as the loneliest road in the world, it spans 1,149 kilometers across the mainland portion of the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. But it takes much more effort just to get here, and for years I've wanted to experience it on my motorcycle. So this past winter I convinced my brother to buy a bike and come with me. This is our 10-day journey.
I've been lying here for too long. I don't know what else to do. I wanna get away from every little thing just to try to make it through.
So, the bike my brother picked up is 15 years old with an unknown service history. Surely that won't come back to haunt us later. Anyway, day one of our trip saw us cover 560 kilometers from Moncton to just north of Baie, Comeau. We left home at the crack of dawn with empty stomachs, trying to get a few miles under our belts before stopping for a traditional Canadian road trip breakfast.
That's better. There's a pothole, I almost fell down. Put the side stand right in the fucking hole.
So after avoiding dropping my bike for the umpteenth time and having a good breakfast, we were back on the road to see some traditional New Brunswick sights like Acadian lawnmowers. And apparently nuns. And after another half-hour riding, it was time for the first planned stop of the day.
You know me and my planes. This is one of the Voodoos? That's a Voodoo, yeah. It would fire those two, and then it would flip around, and there were two more inside. Cool, let's go.
Shortly after leaving this rocket that was retired in the 1980s, we got to see a rocket that was built in the 1980s. Something so rare I never thought I would see it in person.
959. Look at that.
Nothing like driving a car potentially worth millions around the Miramichi, although that value probably just dropped having put urban gas in it. With my inner 80s child content, we headed north.
There's no Canada like French Canada. It's the best Canada in the land. The other Canada is hardly Canada. If you lived here for a day, you'd understand.
Ho ho ho! Welcome to French Canada!
Having crossed over into Quebec, it was time for our next stop of the day, and I thought these might have been dirt bike trails or something that we could ride up, but apparently
I don't
not.
think you want to leave the bikes and walk up those ox cart paths you saw. Yeah. What do you think? It's up to you. There's stuff to see. We'll go to the next one.
While I hate to leave something that I wanted to look at behind, I had a backup plan, and honestly this worked out for the best because this road up here was awesome and we didn't have time to do both, so it worked out.
That's a nice road. I didn't want to stop at the other one because geez, you're parking your bike right on the main highway. This one, I don't think I've ever. Nobody's coming up here. What's that? Nobody's coming up here. No, no.
So after taking in those glorious views for a few minutes, we continued north, and I can't even explain the riding here. These are great roads, lots of twists. I could come back to this area every summer and be happy. So we cut back to the west to try to get to the 132 again, and call this the luck of Google Maps or GPS or whatever, but this road was just fun. Dirt road, similar to the Trans-Quebec Trail that was on the previous year through the Gas Bay. Fun stuff, nothing hard, but just awesome to be seemingly in the middle of nowhere with nobody around. And I think my brother liked it too.
That was it! Yeah.
Once back on the 132, we were treated to decent weather, glorious views of the Metapedia River and rolling hills, lots of curves. This is just a glorious motorcycle road and should be on everybody's list. And it wasn't long before we made it to our next stop of the day. So after admiring the bridge for a little bit, it was time to give my brother and his newfound camera anxiety a bit of relief.
Get on there good?
Well, you'll see it fall off. You're looking right at it. Yeah. You're looking right at it.
So we continued along the 132, further admiring the Metapedia River. As my brother had never ridden in this area, I decided to cut off and do a short section of the Trans-Quebec Trail that I did the prior year. I also had some unfinished business here, as last year I couldn't make it to the bottom of the waterfalls because by that point my knee was shot.
All good?
So after leaving the waterfall and heading down this section of the Trans-Quebec Trail, I had a overwhelming sense of nostalgia for last year's trip. And part of me wanted to keep going and follow it further than I did last year, but my brother and I had been planning this trip for a while. He finally got the right bike. I really needed to set those feelings aside, and we needed to head north to Labrador. And also by this time, we were starting to get a little bit behind. We had originally planned to stop at another covered bridge, which I always do. But when we saw it, we just drove by and made it to the ferry terminal at pretty much the last minute.
Hello. Wait. We pay on the board, okay? Yeah. Awesome, thank you. Gauche.
I don't know why, but I always love ferry crossings. There's just something relaxing about them. So after a crossing of a little more than 2 hours, it was time to go. Now make sure you pay on the boat and have your ticket ready to show them so they'll let you off. And a word of caution while leaving the Baie Comeau terminal. Instead of looking at the scenery like I am here, maybe pay attention to road signage. Neither one of us noticed this lane merging sign.
Would have been nice if there was some warning that that lane ended. No, but there was nothing. I got around the corner. When I went around the corner, I was like, the lane ends. Like, fuck. And I looked back, and you were only halfway up the truck. So I was like, well, I saw it coming over, and I was like, oh, there's no lane. Yeah. All right, we'll find a place to eat.
Nothing works up an appetite like a near-death experience.
One entree later.
So, gonna get the better spot. We're there.
So this sign is kind of the unofficial start to the Trans Labrador Highway, so it's starting to feel real now. So after taking the obligatory video and pictures at the 389 sign, we headed up the road. And it's nice and twisty, just the first section before you get into the construction. So just north of Baie Comeau, we turned off onto the English River Road, which is a dirt road. Lots of views of cliffs and lakes and just great riding. And we found the most perfect camping spot right next to the river with a waterfall just near enough that we could hear it all night. Perfect way to end a day.
A new place, a new home. For a while, let me feel alive. Nothing to hold me back. Take my time, just enjoy the ride. A new man passing by. Life is good, best I've ever felt. When we wake, hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side, our fears are done. Oh, the good times just begun.
Day 2 of our trip took us 565 kilometers through northern Quebec to the town of Vermont.
You gonna start, you old bat? I'll give you a minute to let yours warm up. One hell of a spot. Nothing laying around. We're good to go.
We hit the road early, and our first stop was 300 meters away to check out the waterfall we got to listen to all night. After a short stop, we continued to Route 389, retracing our path from the night before.
I can spend the whole week here. Sand, I can hate sand.
Ah, Quebec construction.
May as well shut her off. We're on the road. You can see where they're ripping up the old road too. They're not just leaving it. Oh, it's over there, was it? Yeah. Well, and that's the old road. It'd be nice if they had left it. Well, too many probably have been in the woods so many times.
Now, brother, be careful with your biased opinions on particular trucking companies. It may come back to haunt us later. So this first section of the 389 has had some extensive work done to it, which continues, in order to straighten it out a little for the heavy transport truck traffic. And despite the highway feel, this section still offers amazing scenery, and it was only about 10 kilometers before we reached our next stop, the Manic Tooth. Leaving Manic 2, we discovered that Route 389 quickly turns into its old self, full of twists and turns, rivers, lakes, and valley views, an absolute joy to ride.
As much as I want to go see this dam, I kind of feel bad leaving that road. Holy crap, that's awesome.
We'll be back on.
Yeah, we'll be back on it. But man,
Now that "we'll be back on it" comment may have been a bit of foreshadowing. I created this route using Google and Gaia, and I wasn't sure how up-to-date that info was.
where am I taking us?
Apparently the answer to that question is not very.
Whether this is where I intended to be or not, it's as far as I'm going.
That's the trail we were on. Up there is where it's supposed to go.
And it's gone.
So we had to turn around. But backtracking wasn't so bad, as it gave us time to see some things that we may have missed on the way in. And going around the opposite side of this hill offered a landscape that we would have missed completely had we not been forced to turn around.
Oh, hell. I have to get a picture of that. With the... Yeah. I was worried a few weeks ago if we could get through, because the road was closed. Well, it was a forest. Well, at one point, yeah.
And it's gone.
So with a feeling of sadness for the devastation left by raging forest fires, but relief that they were no longer burning, we continued on to Manic 3. And I apologize, I can't go to a dam without the following going through my head. And I understand that those two clips are completely unrelated to each other, but hey, that's ADHD for you. And after about an hour on this glorious road, we found a gas station. Seriously, whenever you see a gas station, fill up because they're few and far between. And I was able to put my sticker next to that of one of my favorite YouTube channels, P.O. Trek. He was a huge inspiration for me to start making my own videos, so check him out. Now that is the look of approval if I ever saw one.
Oh, it gets pretty higher where on that road.
Yeah,
It's pretty down further than I am. Yeah.
I want to put her much further.
There's also a restaurant here if that's your thing. But we stuck with what became a staple roadside meal for us of Gatorade, beef jerky, and chocolate bars while we recounted our experience of the day so far. Just north of the gas station is a dirt road to the left that takes you up a hill, where there is a lookout to view the Daniel Johnson Dam, also known as Manic 5. This thing is impressive, and we both made the stereotypical comment of, "Pictures just don't do it justice," while proceeding to take pictures. After leaving the viewpoint, we came across a typical Trans Labrador adventure traffic jam, which, for the uninitiated, is a few motorcyclists lining up to take pictures for their personal collection of "my bike parked in front of things," followed by a discussion with other travelers about their plans.
We'll wait our turn. Wait. Where are you from? Nouveau Brunswick, Nouvelle-Écosse.
You going till Blanc-Sablon?
Eventually, yeah. Tonight we're getting to Vermont.
I don't know where to go.
But there's a free place in Vermont that's right by a lake. The town lets you camp there. That's our goal. But it's 360 kilometers and it's already 2 o'clock, so we'll see.
So it will take 3 hours and a half, maybe.
At least we won't be going 100.
I think we're going to the Relais.
Oh yeah, Relais Gabriel. That's close.
Put some gas.
Yeah.
And we'll find a place to stay over there.
Look up Station Upashka. It's a research station. You can rent a cabin, but they'll let you tent there too.
Thanks for the tip.
Bonne journée. Thanks. Bonne journée. That's fucking huge.
What is that thing going all the way up?
Don't know. From pictures, it looks like a ski jump, but I'm sure that's not what it is.
So just after crossing the overflow gates, the road turns to dirt, and I think this was karma for that trucking comment my brother made earlier. We got stuck behind some trucks going slightly over 50, creating blinding conditions. When we were finally able to safely pass, the lead truck began tailgating us at about 100, which was less than ideal. I was pretty happy to see the Manicougan Reservoir to pull over.
I just need a break.
Get down there on that roadway?
It's up to you. Should be able to.
Alright, not much point looking at it from here.
No, we'll go down.
Short inseam problems in 3, 2, 1.
Up. 1, 2, 3, go. No, just my pride.
While it always sucks to drop a bike, honestly it was no worse for the wear. And I was able to dip my feet in the eye of Quebec. Worth it. Leaving the reservoir lookout, we put the hammer down to make up some time. The road turns to pavement just as you get to Relais Gabriel, and we made a short stop for fuel, deciding to eat now instead of waiting to get to Vermont. This way we could just stop and sleep somewhere quickly if we needed to. The burgers were greasy, but damn, they were good. Now pushing north, the road is not as twisty as it was south of Manic 5, but the views are amazing, and after about 45 minutes, in the middle of nowhere, curbs and sidewalks appeared. This was once the town of Gagnon. When the nearby mine dried up in the 1980s, the town was abandoned and all the buildings were removed. These curbs, a few plaques, and a flag are all that remains.
Let's go read a plaque, shall we? And we'll figure out what we're doing.
We considered camping at the Gagnon ghost town, but it sounded a lot cooler than it was, so we hit the road again hoping to avoid what looked like looming rain clouds. The last 65 kilometers into Mont-Wright were twisty dirt roads with lots of railway crossings. Now while it would have been cool to see one of the trains at a crossing, we were lucky to not have been held up by one. As it was, we got to our destination just after the sun set with just enough twilight to set up our tents and go straight to sleep. Thankful for the greasy burgers we had earlier at Relais Gabriel. It was a long day.
A new place, a new home, for a while, let me feel alive. Nothing to hold me back, take my time, just enjoy the ride. A new man passing by, life is good, best I've ever felt. When we wake, hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. Oh, the good times just begun.
Day 3 of our trip took us 565 kilometers from Vermont, Quebec all the way to Happy Valley Goose Bay in Labrador.
Oh, good.
After surviving what was a chilly night at camp, We hit the road early to get to our first stop, which was only 800 meters up the road.
Yes, I don't know how far that hike is, but...
Ducks.
Now, there are multiple hiking trails of varying degrees of difficulty and length to get to the top of this hill, so we chose the children's route because nobody needs to be a hero at 7 a.m. Upon leaving the viewpoint and heading back into town, we probably should have taken some time to check out what is known as the Wall. This 1.3 kilometer long building was built to protect the town from harsh winter winds and contains City Hall, businesses, schools, a health center, and apartments. But instead of checking that out, my inner child was too eager to look at the giant Tonka truck just around the corner. And we weren't alone in our plans as we ran into another Trans Labrador traffic jam. Operating at one of the local mines, Truck 172 at the time of its retirement held the world record for operating hours at a little over 105,000. And during its lifetime it moved over 34 million tons of earth. It honestly looked to be in good enough shape to re-enter service tomorrow. And in this economy, it may have to. So after a short stop for pictures, we were finally on the main road, and it wasn't long before we reached somewhere very special.
We made it! Now let's go back. Yeah, we made it. And we didn't die! Rule number 1, don't die.
We had made it to Labrador, and were officially on the Trans Labrador Highway. Now, our excitement to be on the Trans Labrador Highway is evident in the fact that I have zero footage of Labrador City. We only stopped long enough to get some fuel and some oil for the KLR, and we were off. The weather and ominous clouds couldn't dampen our spirits as we retreated to a landscape full of seemingly endless lakes and trees, and a road almost entirely to ourselves. We thought it would be best to take advantage of the empty road and have probably the slowest race ever recorded. I swear, following that old KLR with its throttle pins smelled like an old two-stroke snowmobile. It's a good thing that we picked up that oil in Lab City. By a stroke of luck, the skies cleared up a little just as we got to the Churchill Falls. Just off the highway is a 1.5 kilometer long hiking trail that takes you to the best viewpoint of the Churchill Falls. While still impressive for their height and the surrounding landscape, the falls are a trickle compared to their former glory. Prior to the Churchill Falls Dam being constructed, these falls took up the entire rock face that you see now, and that entire riverbed were raging rapids. I can't imagine how loud it would have been. Now, there's a few of these graded bridges along the Trans Labrador Highway, but this is the only one with a stop sign at each end and is a single lane. It's just sketchy riding with knobby tires on a graded bridge. Next up was a mandatory stop in the town of Churchill Falls for fuel. And a word of caution, when you get close to the town, make sure that you're going at or below the speed limit. I doubt that the police here have a lot to do. There's not a whole lot in the town of Churchill Falls. It's your typical northern work town with a one-stop shop. After a quick refuel and snack, we headed to the opposite side of the highway for a little bit of dirt road riding and to check out the reservoir created by the dam.
Damn! Peanut butter and jam!
Take a picture of it. We So this berm breaks by town, maybe?
Google Maps lists this as a tourist viewing area. But it doesn't exactly get the best reviews. So with our last planned stop of the day completed, we got back on the Trans Labrador Highway and continued east. On this leg of the ride, we experienced a wide range of weather, from clear blue skies, wet roads, rainbows, and rain. But nothing could have prepared us for what was inside those dark clouds.
What's this? What's this?
Now we're just far enough into this storm to have come to a complete stop. Less than a kilometer behind us is a clear road. My initial concern was to just get off of the road because any vehicle entering this would run me over before they even realized I was there. And you'll see that my brother got further up the road before stopping and was able to slide his way to a spot where he was able to get further off the road than I was.
How the f*** did we get through this? Holy shit!
I'm in danger!
We walked to each other and met in the middle to discuss our options.
We gotta pull off, we can't f*** going on this. Can you get your bike up here off the road a bit? Where's it going? We're stuck here for a while. We're here for a bit. Fucking hell! I mean, I don't think I'll be able to get it up here. How far off the highway can you get it? What's that? How far off the road can you get it? I can walk it up, like running it and just, well, you can probably get on the other side of mine, and the two of us can haul it back later on. Right, that gets them off the road a little ways.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what that plan was, but I'm pretty confident that not following through with it was a good idea.
Now, where'd that other fucking bike come from? This just started.
Just to clarify that statement about another bike. Minutes before we hit this, we saw a bike go by in the opposite direction, and they didn't even look like they were even wearing rain gear. They had to have just missed this.
This is a freak storm. This just started. It's clearer over there than lightning, yeah.
While watching this truck go by, we decided it would be best to move my bike forward.
Yeah, I'll go see if I can get the bike up here. What? Labrador, what's the policy? Yeah, it's great. What? I said, yeah, it's great. July what? July 31st. Yeah, okay. Ow!
Once back to the bike, I put the camera in its waterproof case. Better late than never, I guess.
Give me a minute. Yeah? Give me a minute. What? What is the camera safe? What? It's right here.
So trying to put wet gloves back onto wet hands during a snowstorm is fun. Yeah, I got a little frustrated and threw my glove.
Almost lost my cool there.
But if you want to know what instant karma feels like, imagine putting your hand into a glove that's now full of gobstopper-sized balls of ice. Good times. I actually had to ease the bike onto the road to get around fresh washouts created by the storm. Thankfully, we got to the bike up to this road sign, which gave a little more room off the road just in time before a transport truck went by. That would have been pretty damn close to where I was originally parked. But wait, that was a load of snowmobiles. We could use a couple of those.
Come back! Come back!
So all we had to do now was wait out the storm and smile for the camera. And congratulate each other for not dropping the bikes on a sheet of ice. Bridgestone AX41 Adventure Cross tires are mud and snow rated, by the way. Now, one thing I do want to point out is that the human eye cannot see as well as this camera. We were still having difficulty seeing 100 feet up the road, while on camera this doesn't even really look that bad anymore. But luckily, before too long, while we recounted our experience of entering the storm, the ice pellets began to change to rain. And it doesn't matter how waterproof your gloves are in this, they're soaking through. The rain began lifting the ice pellets up off the road, so I used my very scientific method to test the pavement for grip. Still unable to see very far down the road, we decided to go for it. Now as we pull away, you may notice that the bike kicked out sideways a little as I got on the throttle. Recovered nicely though. Are you kidding me? Literally just beyond our line of sight from where we were standing for damn near a half hour, the road was clear and we only had to deal with heavy rain. And a few miles further down the road, the pavement was dry. Exhausted, we just put the throttle down to get to Goose Bay before dark, where we were thankful that this was a planned hotel night. We ordered in pizza and made good use of the free access to a dryer.
A new home for a while, let me feel alive. Nothing to hold me back, take my time, just enjoy the ride. A new man passing by, life is good, best I've ever felt. When we wake, hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. Oh, the good times just begun.
Day 4 of our trip covered 507 kilometers from Happy Valley Goose Bay up to Northwest River and eventually making it to Cartwright. As always, we hit the road pretty early and our first stop wasn't very far. We just had to get to the airport, which is on a military base. Now I do have to admit that just driving onto a military base doesn't feel right, but it is Canada, so man, must be fine. And we did want to check out a piece of aviation history.
What a beautiful bird.
That's what she said.
I wish I could have seen one fly in person because that noise.
Yes, sadly, there are fewer than 20 Vulcans left in existence and none of them remain airworthy. So it's highly unlikely that I'll ever hear that distinctive howl in person, and I'll never see one fly, but being able to touch one was kind of cool. Also on display are a CF-101 Voodoo, the second one that we've seen on this trip, and a PBY Canso water bomber. It's a cool looking thing.
Nice shot.
Oh yeah, like a boat.
Bye, birdie.
Now, sidetracked by one last look at the Avro Vulcan, I wasn't really paying attention to traffic laws.
Wrong way.
Avoiding any accidents, we looped around the airport terminal in the right direction this time and headed through the base. Again, it doesn't feel right just aimlessly riding around a military base. I was honestly getting pretty nervous that I was leading us somewhere we really shouldn't be.
I mean, it's a four-wheeler trail.
But what's the worst that could happen? Get shot on sight? Or the more likely Canadian scenario of being politely asked to leave? We received neither and made our way around the end of the runway, following a dirt road up to the top of Dome Mountain.
That view was worth it, huh? Look at all that fog. Rain.
Yes, rain would become a theme for this day, and since we couldn't take in the views, we headed back down the mountain and north to Northwest River. Here, we could take in some shelter from the rain and learn about Labrador culture at the Labrador Interpretive Center. We ended up having the whole place to ourselves, and Reg, who was working there, was more than happy to show us around and share his own experiences of living in Labrador. We could have chatted with the Interpretive Center staff forever, but unfortunately, because we had so far to go that day, we started heading south, making a quick stop to check out the old Sky Tram system, which was the only way to cross the river prior to the bridge being constructed in the 1980s.
Hey, puppy. You just hanging out? You live here, bud? Hudson's Bay Company building. Yeah. That wouldn't have been the building for 67.
Now, just to clarify a little, that building was not built in 1670. The Hudson's Bay Company was incorporated in 1670, and they set up in this area in the 1800s. That building is as it would have been in 1920, and we would have known all of this had we actually gone inside and, actually read something.
Okay, thank you.
In retrospect, we could have spent another day between Happy Valley, Goose Bay, Shashashawee, and the Northwest River. We also didn't have time to check out the military museum in Goose Bay, which I would have liked to have seen, and I don't think we even stepped foot on the Happy Valley side of town. Oh well, just gives us more reason to go back someday.
Thank you.
Before leaving Goose Bay, we had to fill up our fuel tanks and our giant loop armadillo bags for the roughly 400 kilometers between stops.
What's up? Doing mine first or yours first? This
Yeah, so it doesn't slip.
They're a little tricky to fill for the first time.
Hold it. It'll, right? As it fills, it'll... Whoa. It's tricky. No problem.
And now to make use of the ridiculous number of straps that I carry.
And I'll show you how rock straps work.
And here's where I keep assorted lengths of wire. Whoa.
You should buy a couple.
Let me show you some of the different lengths of wire I used.
I'm the one holding this up.
Seriously, rock straps are awesome. The loaded fuel bag didn't budge. So we were all set for the road, and leaving town, we forgot to get a picture of the Happy Valley Goose Bay sign. Oops. And after heating the sign and making sure that we had enough fuel, we crossed the sketchiest bridge of the whole trip. I don't know what the spacing is on those grates, but the knobby tires just did not like it. It's one hell of a view, though. This section of the Trans Lab Highway really is a long haul. It's almost 300 kilometers of nothing but wilderness before finally seeing the turnoff for Cartwright. In order to entertain ourselves on this long and at times monotonous road, we had decided on a challenge of restraint. We agreed to keep our speed between 90 and 100 to see just how far we could make it on a regular tank of fuel. Cruising at $1.30 like the day before definitely wouldn't get us close to Cartwright, and an added bonus to riding like reasonable adults was that the KLR didn't need any oil the following morning. We only stopped once for a break on this basically empty stretch of highway, and at that time we decided that due to the almost constant rain and still being a little grumpy from the hailstorm the day before, we would check for a hotel once we made it to Cartwright. The weather really was beating us, but it did start to clear up a bit before we finally made it to the Paradise River Bridge, our last planned stop of the day before turning off the Trans Labrador Highway and heading north to Cartwright. Turning onto the road to Cartwright, you quickly get the feeling that this is what the Trans Labrador Highway used to be. Just a dirt road through the woods with nobody around for miles. We got to see the once infamous Trans Labrador graders. We made it into town with the KLR well into reserve, and I had been staring at the CB500X's low fuel light for the better part of an hour. But we made it to the gas station. 392 kilometers on a tank. I don't think the bikes would have seen 393. The only hotel in town only had 7 rooms and they were full, so we tried to have a meal at the pub in the basement, but the lady playing a VLT said that she had just shut down the kitchen. I wonder if she meant the 3 barbecues outside. In the end, it all worked out as we found the best campsite of the whole trip.
home for a while, let me feel alive. Nothing to hold me back, take my time, just enjoy the ride. A new man passing by, life is good, best I've ever felt. When we wake, hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. Oh, the good times just begun.
Day 5 of our trip saw us cover 411 kilometers from Cartwright to Wood Island. What a place to wake up to. We watched a whale swimming in the distance as we had breakfast, and we took some time to explore the remains of a Cold War era radar station.
I guess we didn't got there spray James. That's not good. Hey, look, there's our tents, and here's where the bear was last night. Okay.
I don't think that's that fresh, hopefully.
Want to beat it up here? Yeah, I'll walk right here. So just walk right in.
Break your legs.
In retrospect, I'm glad that we got into camp late the night before and didn't really have time to look around. If I had stumbled across that bear scat, I probably wouldn't have slept very well. So with mischief managed, we set off for the day, back down the trail we came up the previous night. Now overall, the road/trail to the radar station is beginner friendly. But there are a few sections of sharp baby head rocks that move around under your tires, and a small amount of loose sand at the bottom where I almost bailed the night before. Once I got past the sand, I stopped to check my mirrors, but my brother wasn't there. The baby heads got him. So I walked back to check on him, and once I knew he was okay, I provided some mechanical expertise on how to reattach his mirror.
Righty-tighty, lefty-lefty.
I'm not sure I should be providing any guidance on anything, as it appears that I can't even operate a camera properly. Before long, we made it back into town, and the weather cooperated to allow us to take in more amazing views at Flagstaff Hill.
Good.
Now this day was a little different than the previous days of our trip. After leaving Cartwright, we had no real points of interest to get to, and our planned mileage was less. So we were going to have time to stop for anything that caught our attention, or to just slow down and enjoy the scenery. And it didn't take long for us to notice a series of seemingly abandoned snowmobiles and comatics on the side of the road. We had noticed these the night before on the way into Cartwright, but kind of brushed it off. Today, our curiosity got the better of us. What you are about to witness is what happens when two boys from the Annapolis Valley stumble across a snowmobile in the ditch 50 kilometers from the nearest building. Now, my apologies if this is your snowmobile. I don't actually like touching people's stuff. We didn't take or break anything. We were legitimately curious as we thought this was just left here.
Seems like a weird spot to leave a snowmobile. Been here a while. Oh yeah. Think it'll turn over? Oh yeah, start right up. Oh, she wasn't. She's not stuck. Key's in it. Let's check for gas. Hey! That's off. I know. Oh, it's well, it's Debbie. This is sitting on the back. You think that's gas? I can't believe it pulled over.
What's that?
I can't believe it pulled over. You're not gonna get that going.
Wouldn't it? Yeah. It must have. I wonder how much the motor's there.
Maybe the motor's not even in it and you're just pulling nothing.
Look at that.
Oh yeah.
It's all there. The whole thing.
550 twin.
The whole thing's there.
Jesus.
Drive, motor, everything. Bridge. We just left it.
Yeah.
Look at this. The belt is there.
Yeah. Jason, we've ridden worse than this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Not much. That's in pretty good shape overall. There you go, girl. Someone will love you somehow. That's expensive to do.
Yeah, with the long track. Hey, is that 10W40?
I don't know.
Yeah, at this point, our thoughts were almost always on the KLR's oil consumption.
the dust that popped out of the seat.
Shaping, it turns over like there's no reason why they would have left it. I don't know why she must have just quit.
Yeah.
It's been there a long time.
Yeah.
But I can't believe everything's there.
Yeah.
Like down at home, stuff like that would just be at, well, actually it wouldn't stay there. Someone would come and get it.
Yeah, it'd be stolen.
Someone would come and get it.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going.
I can't believe she pulled over.
Now apparently, once it snows, someone will likely come dig that thing out of the snowbank, start it up, and begin hauling wood. Where I come from, it would have been hooked for meth within a week.
Wow. Paradise River Airport. Where would you land? Huh. Okay. I have to check that on Google Maps to see where the... Oh, there it is. No.
That was, in fact, the runway. 2021 data lists the population of Paradise River at 5, just a few shy of justifying the continued operation of an airport. The highway graders were hard at work, but we lucked out with our timing as we used this bridge to cross the dreaded loose berm. As we got back onto the Trans Lab Highway, the sky looked ominous, so we put our rain gear back on before turning up the Islands and Coves route to Charlottetown. After a short stop in Charlottetown, we headed to Pinson's Arm, where we saw more roadside snowmobiles, and the road ends in the tiniest little community.
This is it? Now I know why nobody comes out here. Just to say you did.
Oh, that was uncalled for.
Pretty though.
That statement of no one coming out here was completely wrong. Minutes later, I took both my favorite photo and video of the entire trip. The best way I can describe my experience of Pinson's Arm was underwhelmed on the way in and overwhelmed on the way out. The views were amazing in the opposite direction, and it created a completely different experience. So go to Pinson's Arm. Once we were back onto the Trans Lab Highway, it wasn't long before we could see the Alexis River in the distance, which meant that we were almost to Port Hope Simpson, our first real stop for fuel and supplies since Cartwright. Now for the record, The Port Hope Simpson Bridge, while also graded steel, was nowhere near as sketchy as the Goose Bay Bridge. I could even look around instead of holding on for dear life.
What's that? There wasn't very good gas in Cartwright. No, it was 320 when I'm reserved. Oh, mine's still not on reserve, but yeah.
You get 400 kilometers to a tank once, and suddenly anything less is bad gas. After fueling up, we found the only restaurant in town for a late lunch / early supper, so we didn't have to worry about a meal when we finally made it to camp that night. Our plan was to camp in St. Louis at Fisherman's Point, so we turned onto the road known as Iceberg Alley. What an amazing ride on a dirt road with nothing to look at but open wilderness. If you ever ride the Trans Labrador Highway, take the time to go down these dirt roads into these little communities. It's totally worth it.
Come on now, where them icebergs at?
Upon arriving at Fisherman's Point, we quickly realized that it was way too windy for us to get a decent sleep, and that's if we didn't get blown into the ocean first. So we picked some baked apples for a snack, and we watched some fishermen tend to their traps for a few minutes before hitting the road with a new plan to just camp on the side of the Trans Lab Highway once we found a suitable spot. And just before dusk, we found the perfect spot on Wood Island, located in the middle of St. Louis Inlet.
What you thinking? Well, it's getting late. Yeah. Either here or back at that other bridge, there was that trail down. Did you want to look at that first? Let's take a walk behind that canoe. Okay.
Yes, yet another roadside snowmobile with the keys in it.
This must be a thing to leave canoes randomly. Well, they're all over the fucking place, aren't they? Well, that's not enough. No, that's still a good snoo. Yeah, that's still a good machine. Set up in here where we're not seen by the road. Yeah, let's see what's in there further. I'm good with over there, man. No one's gonna bug us.
A new place, a new home. For a while, let me feel alive. Nothing to hold me back. Take my time, just enjoy the ride. A new man passing by. Life is good, best I've ever felt. When we wake, hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. Oh, the good times just begun.
Day 6 of our trip saw us ride a whopping 32 kilometers from Wood Island to Mary's Harbor, where we were catching a boat to get to Battle Harbor for the day. What a great place to wake up. Even though we were camped directly next to the highway, I didn't hear a vehicle all night long.
Here, I'll get out of your way.
wet seat, yeah. All good? And away we go.
We completely misjudged just how close we were to Mary's Harbor. We were on the road at our usual 6:30 to 7 a.m., but our boat didn't leave Mary's Harbor until 10:30.
Pretty.
It was so early that we both wore our rain gear in spite of clear skies, just to reduce the effects of the cool morning air. Turning off the Trans Labrador Highway and getting into town so early gave us plenty of time to get our bearings straight, figure out where our room was going to be for the night, and where we needed to be to catch our boat.
I think we're staying there. Oh, wow.
After a 5-minute tour of the town, we decided to have breakfast at a little cafe that I had seen in so many online videos. Unfortunately, it didn't open until 10, so we made our typical camp breakfast in the parking lot, making use of the wooden cable spools out front. With our stomachs full of the disappointment of a freeze-dried meal, we headed to Battle Harbor day trips, where we were quickly approached and greeted by this absolute legend of a man.
People stay up there too,
I'm from New Brunswick. Nova Scotia.
Now, I'm not going to pretend that I understood the entire conversation with that thick, old dialect, but what a joy to experience and listen to. And at a spry young age of 93, I hope he's able to greet people for years to come. The boat takes about an hour and a half, and the excitement builds as you begin to see abandoned communities along the neighboring islands.
Wow.
No amount of pictures or videos can capture the presence that this place has as it comes into view. If you wish, you can take a guided tour through the Battle Harbor Truss. We decided to just wander around on our own and figure it out as we went. After checking out most of the buildings, we followed the hiking path around the island, which led to old cemeteries and the remains of a plane crash with a memorial to the young men who tragically lost their lives.
Nine pistons.
After wandering around for hours, we were entertained by some local wildlife while waiting for our boat to leave.
Where do you go?
There he is. You see the otter? Hi, buddy. Hi. Jeez, he's big. He's on the boat.
Now, my apologies for assuming this otter's gender. Words cannot express how special this place is, or the feeling that you get from experiencing it. If you ever have a chance, visit Battle Harbor. Now, one final side note. I think that our tour was supposed to have more people. While we were waiting to board in the morning, this camper van, which had an intact hood and grill the prior day when we were gassing up in Port Hope Simpson, slammed into one of these boats.
She did a job on her. Didn't even hurt it. There's the old fella.
How do you explain driving into a boat to your insurance company?
It was a funny angle.
A little bit of a ding. Oh. Alright, take care.
I don't even want to know how expensive it was to get that towed and fixed.
A new place, a new home, for a while, let me feel alive. Nothing to hold me back, take my time, just enjoy the ride. A new man passing by, life is good, best I've ever felt. When we wake, hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. Oh, the good times just begun.
Day 7 of our trip took us 322 kilometers from Mary's Harbor to the end of the road at Old Fort and then back to Blanc-Sablon.
All good?
While this wasn't going to be our longest day as far as distance was concerned, it was probably our busiest day because on the south coast of Labrador, if you hit good weather, there's lots to see and do. And as luck would have it, despite a pretty chilly ride through the hills first thing in the morning, this day provided the best weather that we had probably in the entire trip.
Got a picture of that. It's a little cold up here.
Oh, yeah.
After riding for about an hour through the rolling hills and tundra of the Labrador interior, we finally saw the coast again and we turned off the Trans Labrador Highway into Red Bay. After having breakfast at the Whalers Restaurant, our first stop of the day was the Red Bay National Historic Site, where I convinced the workers there to allow me to take part in the Little Explorers scavenger hunt, intended for children.
See what you find.
After completing the scavenger hunt in what I would like to think is record time, I did get a nasty look from a little girl who was jealous of my dog tag.
No child can beat the Grinch!
In addition to the exhibits at the main building, you can take a quick boat ride to Saddle Island.
My first iceberg. It's only 20 miles out.
After getting a close-up view of the SS Bernier wreckage, the remains of various Basque whaling buildings, and seeing where a sunken Basque whaling ship was found, we hit the road for a short ride to the opposite side of the bay. Here there were 2 hiking trails that we wanted to do.
Do you want to go down first or up first? Let's go down. Yeah.
We knew that one trail went down to the shore and that one went up the hill, so we assumed that the shore one was down here.
Nope, sorry. I'm gonna go with no. Nope. I guess they're both in the same spot.
So yeah, unless you want to go down that guy's driveway like we did, just park in the parking lot, follow the main trail, and it branches off shortly after. The first trail we followed was the Bony Shore Trail. This shoreline was where the Basque whalers discarded all the whale carcasses after they had been processed, and to this day you can still find whale bones dating back as far as the 1500s. After checking out the few whale bones that remain, we found a field of ripe crowberries and bake apples for a free snack before heading up Tracy Hill. Once you make it to the top, you are treated to a panoramic view of the bay below and the barrens to the north.
Crazy, eh? Look at the fog coming in over the island.
All good?
Leaving Tracy Hill and heading south toward Pinrare River, we were treated to the unbelievable scenery of the Forteau Barrens.
Jesus. Wow. Fucking crazy. Unreal.
As impressed as we were by that lookout, the descent toward the Pinware River Bridge was even more spectacular.
That's unreal, eh? Yeah. Incredible. Yeah. That's why I pulled over. I was like, I gotta stop and look at this. Like. That too, but coming down that valley. Yeah. It's all through there. Yeah. Woo. Woo. Sketchy. Oh, I mean, come on. Wow.
Now, I had originally wanted to stop on the bridge, but with the construction, thought better of it. Although, the construction didn't seem to bother that guy with the fishing rod.
Okay.
Passing the Pinware River Provincial Park, the overall feel of the trip almost changes. It's still remote, but now there's towns that you go through and a little bit of traffic. You can sense that you're almost re-entering civilization.
The bear trap. Iceberg.
Iceberg, right ahead!
Big one.
Now, my first iceberg experience was a little underwhelming with it being so far away, but this one looked like we might be able to get close enough to actually see it.
Ta-da! I think that's as close as we're gonna get. Perfect.
Leaving our first real iceberg experience behind, our next stop was the Lansamore Loop, which has a few things to check out. Some might be less impressive than others.
That little mound of rocks.
This little mound of rocks on the side of the road is the oldest known burial ground in the New World. That's it. That's all I got. At the end of the loop is Point Amour Lighthouse, the tallest lighthouse in Atlantic Canada. Now our timing was perfect as we were able to squeak inside to get to the top of the tower before a bus full of grey hair unloaded. Not far from the lighthouse are the remains of HMS Raleigh, which ran aground in 1922. There's not a lot of it left, but it's still cool to check out.
Herded like cattle.
I think it's safe to say that bus tours aren't in my foreseen future. With the remoteness aspect of the trip gone, we decided at our next fuel stop that it was time to unload all the spare fuel that we had been carrying since Happy Valley Goose Bay.
See if I can spill this all over my bike, that'd be good. There we go. Yes, sir. Can't complain about that.
Our fuel anxiety managed, we made our last stops in Labrador. Unfortunately, the information center was closed, but the stop did allow us to check out one last roadside snowmobile before leaving our mark on the Labrador sign.
Check out the old snowmobile.
Okay, perfect.
This thing is too cool to walk by.
It's buckshot, right?
I know. I should have brought a shotgun to leave my mark. Jeez. Doing it wrong. So we're done. We're still gotta drive home, but the ferry we're gonna take tomorrow.
Crossing into Quebec, we knew that our ferry to Newfoundland wasn't until the following morning, so we passed straight through the town of Blanc-Sablon. We wanted to get to the end of the 138 at Old Fort. While passing through town, we made mental notes of where our free campground was for the night, and also where to find the ferry terminal we needed to get to the following day. The 138 is awesome, and I was thoroughly enjoying pushing the CB500X, about as much as one would be willing to push 50/50 tires, but then I began to smell something which instantly made me worry.
What's that smell? That's what I
don't have the best track record with luggage.
Okay, you smell it too. I smell it, yeah. It smells like burning. Burning. Yeah. No, there must be something in the air. I saw smoke up here, so there must be a plant of some sort. Forest fire? No. I think there's white smoke. It might be an asphalt plant. Yeah. So, anyway, I just needed to make sure it wasn't that bag, because I was giving her pretty good through there. Phew. What is that?
This sort of thing ain't my bag, baby.
Finally comfortable that it wasn't my saddlebag burning, I even seeing the fire, I don't know what this was.
Dumpster fire, I guess.
Now back to the 138. Twists and curves and ocean views and hills, and we felt like we had the whole road to ourselves until we ran into construction.
Mercy. Yeah. Wow.
Before long, we made it to the end of the 138 and what felt like the end of this leg of our journey. But the rest of the trip wasn't going to be easy.
This is the end. That's a heck of a road, man. I get a picture and we'll be good to go. Well, I gotta be east here. Come here, look. Huh? What?
Busted off.
You busted some teeth?
Yeah, where's that?
Yeah, well, it'll get you home. I gotta go easy on it all.
Now in the moment, I kind of brushed this off. I typically live my life with a bit of a, "Meh, we'll be fine" attitude. But this was a concern. We still had over 1,700 kilometers to go.
A new place, a new home, for a while, let me feel alive. Nothing to hold me back, take my time, just enjoy the ride. A new man passing by, life is good, best I've ever felt. When we wake, hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. Oh, the good times just begun.
Day 8 of our trip saw us cover 318 kilometers from Blanc-Sablon, Quebec, across a ferry and around the northern tip of Newfoundland. We spent the previous night at a free campground in Blanc-Sablon, and we awoke in a state of mild confusion. Now, I doubt that you get the same mind screw in this town if you come from the Newfoundland direction, but I'll try to explain what it's like coming through Labrador. For most of our trip, we had been in the Atlantic time zone. The day prior to this, we entered the Newfoundland time zone along the Labrador coast, which is a half hour ahead. When we crossed into Quebec, we entered the Eastern time zone, which is an hour and a half behind that. We had had so little cell phone coverage for the previous 7 days that we didn't really trust the time that our phones were telling us. Where we had camped was so close to the Quebec and Labrador border that it wouldn't really be surprising if your phone was picking up the wrong time zone. The ferry schedule runs on Newfoundland time, but you're physically in Quebec, and presumably your clocks are in Quebec time. And to top it all off, you're in Quebec, but most of the people that we spoke to talked like Newfies. Did you catch all that? Because I still don't think I've figured it out. Our solution was to set our alarms way too early and go directly to the ferry terminal. People were already there waiting in line, so we weren't alone in our confusion.
Where do we go? Lane number 3? Awesome. Yay, thank you!
So after waiting for close to an hour for the terminal to open, we got to check in and then go wait in a second line for the boat to show up.
2. Okay. Oh, me? Okay. All the way to the front? Yep.
The nice thing about being on a motorcycle is that we got to load onto the boat first, We strapped our bikes down and rushed to the cafeteria to beat the breakfast lineup and then relax for the hour and 45-minute crossing. Upon exiting the ferry, the fog lifted, and we were left with a decision to make. Do we heed the warnings that the KLR sprockets were giving us and head south now, or continue to follow our originally planned route? Being the main characters of this story, with a plot armor, we ignored the warnings and headed north. We hadn't been heading north long before I saw something floating in the distance and we got a little sidetracked.
Iceberg, right ahead!
All good? Yua!
After briefly observing the icebergs off in the distance, we were back on the road and headed to our primary objective for the day. A place that I've wanted to visit ever since I was a small child. Somewhere that should be on everybody's bucket list. The Viking settlement at Lonzo Meadows. Approaching the site, you are greeted by a statue of the archaeologist who discovered it. I think that any Canadian of my vintage will have the same thought.
Do you know what I think this is?
Just north of the National Historic Site is a statue of Leif Erikson, so of course we had to go get a picture of it.
Want your picture with him?
He was a big man.
Yeah, he's awful tall, isn't he? My God, Newfoundland's beautiful.
Leaving the northern tip of Newfoundland, we headed into St. Anthony, where we found another PBY Canso water bomber. Maybe it was just fresh paint, but this one appeared to be in good enough shape to actually fly. Making it to the end of the road at Fishing Point, we were treated to one final iceberg, even if it was small.
Hey, iceberg.
Whales breaching in the distance, and if I recall correctly, one of the only real restaurant meals that we had the entire trip. After our meal, it was time to scope out our planned campsite for the night. A spot I found using iOverlander.
I think this might be it. Yeah.
It didn't go as well as I would have hoped.
What that's off of. I mean, it was a worth drive up just for the view. But I'm not sure we'll be able to set up our tents. Because I can't set mine up without pegs, right? My fly won't, the rain cover won't stay up without pegs. Yeah, get a peg out and try it. Try that. I don't suspect it'll go in. And this would all be like that. Would have been a great spot. Can't get our tent pegs in.
So we headed south, eventually finding a cabin to stay in, which actually worked out great, because the following day was going to be a long one.
a new home for a while. Let me feel alive. Nothing to hold me back. Take my time, just enjoy the ride. A new man passing by. Life is good, best I've ever felt. When we wake, hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. Oh, the good times just begun.
Day 9 of our trip covered 790 kilometers from Pistolet Bay to Port au Basque. Our day began with another inspection of the KLR sprockets, the results of which we promptly ignored and hit the road.
All set to go, buddy. 719 kilometers to go today. She's gonna be a long one.
We actually ended up adding a 70-kilometer side trip to the planned route for the day because I guess we're gluttons for punishment. But more on that later. Our initial goal was to find some coffee and breakfast.
Oh, please tell me that's a robin. Just a gas station. Son of a bitch. Nope.
But being early in the morning on a Sunday, there would indeed be nothing open between Pistolet Bay and our first stop in Port au Choix. We arrived just as the site was opening, happy to get in out of the cold. Now, I will admit that we probably spent less time than we should have in the museum, but while looking out of the window, something caught my eye, so we quickly hopped onto the bikes to go check it out.
It's gonna be a slow ride to the lighthouse. What a baby.
Neither of us had ever seen caribou before, so it was exciting to see a herd of them, even if they were blocking our way.
Maybe we won't get to the lighthouse. Now that they're just standing in our way.
But the locals seemed eager to help our cause.
What's that? Yeah. Be nice if they get off the road. I don't really want those antlers in my leg. No. They're not very bothered by it. They don't care. No, I don't think we're getting to the lighthouse. Yeah, they're not too bothered by you. And yeah, it's Sunday. Yeah. Hi, buddy. Wow.
In the end, we got as close as we dared, and we didn't want to bother them like some of the impatient tourists behind us. So we turned around and continued on our way. The Point Riche Lighthouse and sculptures throughout the site would have to wait until the next time we're in the area. That herd is apparently almost always around there, so if seeing a caribou is on your bucket list, Port au Choix is a great place to start looking. Now back on the road, we overshot our next stop while getting fuel and breakfast, so we had to backtrack a little.
Is this it? Yep. No? That doesn't make any sense. Come on. Ah. I got it. It's gonna turn off.
After taking a few moments to figure out where the hell I was going, it was just a short ride from the highway to get to the Torrent River Interpretive Center. Being a Sunday, the Interpretive Center was closed, and we didn't see any fish using the fishway, but it was still worth the short hike to see the waterfall. Maybe those fishermen had better luck than we did in the fish department. Once again heading south, we began to be treated to the ocean and mountain views that the west coast of Newfoundland is known for. And after about an hour of riding, we made it to our next roadside stop. Not only a great place to stretch your legs and look around, apparently it's also a great place to take your cat for a walk.
Wow.
Shortly after leaving the Arches, we entered Gros Morne National Park, where we were once again treated to amazing views. But instead of stopping at the crowded Western Brook Pond parking lot, we pulled in just across the highway because, well, I just can't resist checking out shipwreck remains. After a brief stop, we continued further on into Gros Morne, enjoying more coastal views before turning off the main road to check out Lobster Cove Head Lighthouse. Shortly after getting back on the road, I caught a brief glimpse of what would be our last wildlife sighting of the trip.
Hey, bear!
While riding through this section of Gros Morne National Park, being thankful that that bear ran into the woods and not into the road, and enjoying the unbelievable scenery of mountains, rivers, ponds, and the East Arm, off in the distance I could see a special place that was not actually part of our plan for the day. And having gained some time due to the Caribou roadblock earlier, and considering the fact that my brother had no idea what this place was, I decided to add 70 kilometers to our day and head to the Tablelands. What makes the Tablelands special is that it is one of only a handful of places on Earth where the mantle is exposed.
I gotta put my rain pants on just to prepare. Hasn't been bad yet, but... So yeah, that's the Tablelands. That's the Earth's mantle.
Sadly, with the weather beginning to turn a little, we didn't stay long. But we'll be back in this area next year and plan on spending more time actually checking things out. Now, I'm not sure if it was the on and off rain, batteries, or just being overtired, but I had no footage from Corner Brook to Port aux Basques. I did, however, make sure to film entering Mary Brown's for a traditional Newfie meal, complete with pineapple pop. With our bellies now full, we covered the final few kilometers to the Marine Atlantic Ferry Terminal. From here we would catch the overnight ferry to Nova Scotia. The boarding process can be a little confusing for those of us who don't do it very often, but we figured it out.
Hello. What's that? Yeah. Okay, we'll figure it out. Okay, thank you. No. No, thanks. No, McLean, lane 11, okay. Thank you.
Finally getting in line, the KLR's chain was making a horrible noise. We would have to address it in the morning.
A new place, a new home, for a while, let me feel alive. Nothing to hold me back, take my time, just enjoy the ride. A new man passing by, life is good, best I've ever felt. When we wake, hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. Oh, the good times just begun.
Day 10 of our trip saw us cover 460 and 500 kilometers respectively to get home. But first, we needed to get off of the ferry and take some time to check out just how bad the KLR's chain was, and to figure out our plan of action to make it home. Now, I normally would advise against stopping at the first Tim Hortons that you see after getting off of the ferry because they're always packed. But in that moment we thought that the long wait time may give us extra time to work through our problem.
She's skipping? Is it skipping? You hear it. You clicking? You tighten it up a bit and...
One eternity later.
No, I just filmed yours just to show how less than ideal it is, and well, I mean, you did 800 like that yesterday. What's another 5?
Our initial plan was to go around the Cabot Trail.
Yeah!
But given the state of the KLR's chain, we decided to head straight home. But that left us with another problem. The fastest route home required climbing Kelly's Mountain, which would most likely cause the sprocket to finally let go. So we decided that the route through Grand Narrows would be best, hoping that there wouldn't be any large hills. And with our decision made, we hit the road.
Still okay? Yeah. Okay, good. Oh, he's going. Taking her easy.
From here I let Jason lead for a couple of reasons. Firstly, we're from Nova Scotia and could find our way home without a map, even if these aren't roads we've ridden before. Secondly, and more importantly, if the sprocket were to let go, I would see it happen and pull over right away instead of riding off into the distance.
Here's Bud Road. Sprockets were shitting themselves.
And this was a pretty good road. Twisty enough to keep it interesting, with scenery that was new to us, offering a different perspective on the Brador Lakes. And it was pretty cool to see the swing bridge open while crossing the Bear Strait.
Cool. It's open. So, I don't know the last time a train went by there, but probably a while ago.
After passing through Iona, we were treated to more views of the Brador Lakes and some rural Nova Scotia oddities before reaching Little Narrows.
Foxes playing. Foxes. Interesting.
Little Narrows is probably one of the shortest ferry rides that you will ever take. It's definitely worth going out of your way to experience this marvel.
Didn't see any foxes. Barely they're playing. We waiting here? Oh, bike coming. Nice. Good, you. Nice bike. I got a CB500X. He's riding a KLR. We just did Labrador, so we're on our way home.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. You guys are packing.
Yeah. His teeth and his sprocket are getting rounded off, so we're just trying to limp home. Yeah, Yeah, we're not going fast today. We've been going fast, but we're not going fast today.
That's why I took a bike with a drive shaft.
Yeah, I got.
Before you go fucking change.
Yeah, you can still blow other things though. I got a couple of bikes with drive shafts. That just creates another problem potentially.
Yeah. So far it's been good. I've
Yeah.
been 5 years. I've got 73,000 kilometers on it.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Good for you.
I went to British Columbia the first year that I've had it.
Good for you. Good. I got about 20. Well, I didn't check. 20 something now on this.
We're almost there.
Well, geez, if the boat was any longer, they could just drop the two things. It'd be a bridge. Hey, take care. Yeah.
Upon exiting the ferry, we pulled off to the side to let the traffic pass. Anybody who normally rides with me knows that I'm never one to be behind traffic, so you can be assured that we were taking the condition of the chain and sprockets seriously.
It's raining over here.
We made it to Wakagama and waved one final goodbye to our friend from the ferry and headed toward the Canso Causeway. Crossing the causeway, I felt a huge sense of relief. From here, even if the KLR's chain or sprockets let go, We know enough people who own trucks who could get to us within a few hours. It may take forever, but we were going to be sleeping in our own beds tonight. A new stretch of twinned highway had just opened up days before, so we had to stop and soak in what was once one of the busiest sections of road in Nova Scotia. On this day, it was eerily quiet.
Yeah, they just did it not that long ago. It's brand new. I don't. It's good for us, though. Whatever.
From here, our last stop together before Jason headed to the Annapolis Valley and I headed to New Brunswick would be in Truro. This would provide one last chance to make light of the situation, as a brother should.
If you're like, come on. Yeah, it's just up there that you'll be. So on a declining scale of 42 to 0, how many teeth are left on your sprocket? None. Hey, yeah. Well, if it breaks, you can use your carpentry skills and build one out of wood. And it's breaking them, yeah, the bad link. Yeah.
It was, in fact, many bad links. And the joking was set aside for genuine concern and care before we parted ways.
Text me when you get home, so I know you got home safe. Alright, man. It's been a pleasure. It's a great trip. You drive safe. Alright, we'll be talking to you. God, I hope he makes it home, man. He's going.
He would indeed make it home, and a few days later I received these pictures of just how bad the chain and sprockets were. I'm pretty sure that a chain shouldn't defy gravity like that.
He's off. After you, old girl. Time for us to get home. Yeah.
And with that, I was on my way home too. For those last, uneventful miles, while my main thoughts were of Jason's well-being, my mind couldn't help but reflect on what we had just experienced. Our journey over these 10 days to cross the Trans Labrador Highway had taken us through parts of New Brunswick, Quebec, Newfoundland and Labrador, and Nova Scotia. We had covered almost 5,000 kilometers of both paved and dirt roads through forests, hills, tundra, and coastline. So was it worth it? Absolutely. While the ADV purists out there may say that some of the adventure has been lost now that the route is almost entirely paved, I have to disagree. For me, it allowed us to enjoy our time on the road and really soak in our surroundings. It also gave us more time to spend in the communities we stopped at along the way. And don't worry, there's always going to be something that comes up during a ride like this that will make it memorable. Be it a freak hail and lightning storm on July 31st, being able to barely understand some of the locals but having a wonderful conversation anyway, or seeing your first iceberg. If you decide to make this journey, and I strongly suggest that you do, something will happen that will make it authentically your journey. I will always look back on my time through Labrador with fondness, thankful that I was able to share it with my brother. And the thing that I think I will always remember most is just how large the sky felt. It truly is the big land.